Hey guys, my name is Grim, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the only build that I've tried in Markarth for Stamina Nightblade that I've actually liked, and it's a bit of a journey. This patch has been weird, but I'm going to do something a little different from what I usually do. I know a lot of people come and watch the videos just to get the sets, and then to dip, and that is actually totally fine. So what I'm going to do this time is show you exactly what I'm running, and then I'll explain why I'm running it, how I got here, alternatives, stuff like that. So let's just get into it. Right now, I'm going to be showing you my setup for CP campaigns, and sometimes I run this in non-CP too, exactly as is, but it kind of depends. Some people play only non-CP, some people play only CP. This is my CP setup, and I'll show you non-CP as well. So first of all, I am running 5 pieces of Eternal Vigor on both bars with 2 heavy pieces on the body, the chest here and the legs. Both are well fitted with tri-stat, and 3 pieces of infused weapon damage jewelry. And what this set does is it gives you 337 stamina and magical recovery when your health is above 50%, and it gives you a little over 1k health recovery when your health is below 50%. This is insanely strong. This will carry your recovery and in large part your healing, especially in tandem with Cloak. You're going to Cloak and your health recovery is just going to fill you back up over 50% health, and then suddenly you're going to be getting a ridiculous amount of magical recovery, and you can just stay in Cloak if you want. So this is a great set. It also gives you a free line of health as part of a bonus to the 5 piece, and then it gives you 1 line of each recovery in addition. So it's a huge recovery set, and it'll completely carry the recovery of your build. On the back bar, I am running Venomous Smite. So I'm actually running 2 sets that dropped in the Greymoor expansion. Kind of fun. The one heavy one and the one medium one. And what this set does is when you deal crit damage, you inflict Hunter's Venom on your enemy for 10 seconds, and that deals 2.5k damage per second to your target and enemies within 6 meters of them every second, and this can occur every 15 seconds. I run this on the back bar only, so when I'm on the front bar, you can see I only get I get the 2 and 3 piece bonus, and that is because I'm running 3 small pieces here. These are all medium pieces, 2 divines, 1 well fitted. When it comes to traits, I honestly think in CP you can run all divines, but I'm switching back and forth between CP and non-CP, so I currently have 3 well fitted. I could honestly probably bring that down to 2 or 1, or I could probably run it with no well fitted, but well fitted does come in handy. It's a really strong trait, so I don't mind having it. It's not a huge disadvantage, but all divines, if you're running in only CP, all divines is what I would do. I am running 2 pieces of Balorg, and this is just to add to my burst. It gives you damage and pen, and that is actually super important for a couple of reasons. The main one is that it buffs both your in-cap, so it buffs your big burst, it buffs everything that follows that up for a long time. 12 seconds is a long time. And the extra pen actually also buffs Venomous Smite, because I don't know if you know this, but dots are resisted by resistance, like pretty much everything is except for Oblivion damage. And so having more pen will help your procs to hit harder. So in CP, procs don't hit that hard because people have CP to mitigate them. They still hit hard, but they don't hit as hard as in no CP. And Balorg helps you to kind of chew through people's resistances after you ult. So it's really nice. Then on the front bar, I am running the Vateshran's Perfected Maul, sharpened with a weapon damage glyph. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I run a weapon damage glyph on both my front and my back bar, and the only reason for that is because I totally change out all the time what poisons I'm running and which bar I'm running them on. And I always want to have that weapon damage glyph somewhere. Usually it's actually on the front bar. I normally put poisons on my back bar, and I'll explain why in a second. But I run a lot of different poisons here. Right now I just threw on crown lethal poisons because I ran out of my juicy nice poisons, and so so I've just been running these, and they've been more effective than I thought they would be, and that's funny to me, so whatever. Jewelry, all infused weapon damage. The Mundus Stone I am using is the Warrior, and that is getting buffed by my Divine pieces. I'm using Artaeum Takeaway Broth for food, and I have 4 points into health. All of my armor pieces have tri-stat glyphs on them. I don't have a ton of max stat in the build, and so the most efficient way to build in health is with tri-stat glyphs, and I need as much health as I can get in this meta, and it gives me free magicka to use tri-stat glyphs instead of just health glyphs. So tri-stat on all your pieces. It's expensive, but it's totally worth it. It's a big deal. What is nice is that Venomous Smite is really cheap, so you can actually pick it up at a store no problem. I was able to get the bow for like under 1,000 gold, and then I just upgraded it myself. But I got a defending bow for under 1,000 gold. I think it was like 990 gold. So this is a very accessible build. The jewelry is a bit more expensive. You have to trait change it yourself, so it's going to require some transmute stones, but that's not a big deal. If you collect all the pieces, I think you can even craft it nowadays using transmute stones. Like you can create it for cheaper than you can trait change all of these, so that might be the way to go there. Again, if you're in CP, I really don't think you need the well-fitted, but it doesn't hurt. It's nice. It's a very efficient trait, so there's that. In non-CP, I run basically the same thing, but I mix things up just a little bit, and it's only with the monster set. So there are 3 different ways I've tried it, and I like all of them, and for different reasons. Actually, 4 different ways I've tried it. One is just to use Balorg still. Balorg and no CP is still really strong, and I like it. But sometimes I actually really enjoy having just a little bit of extra resistance. And so what I can do is I'll still run 1-piece Balorg, and what that's doing is basically giving me a 4-piece Venom on this bar. Like, it's the same bonus. You could just run another piece of Venomous Smite here instead of Balorg if you don't have a Balorg mask, or any other weapon damage monster set. It doesn't matter. It just means that you get the max weapon damage from Venomous Smite on your front bar, and then you get a little bit of extra armor. So just 1 line of armor. And in no CP, armor actually helps a lot. Having extra armor is a big deal, especially if you have a healer. Being able to mitigate incoming damage while you're getting healed is insane. So that's really nice. Along those lines, you can actually push it even further. So I've got a piece of pirate skeleton here that I sometimes throw on, and now I've got 2 lines of armor, and that's really nice. That actually buffs up my resistances to like 25k, which in medium armor is pretty thick, and it's been fun. I mean, I like running with 2 lines of armor. It works. It's super consistent. Completely along this same line of reasoning, you can also run 2 pieces of Bloodspawn. And I like this too. You're getting less consistent armor, but you're getting more of it. And you also get the ulti gen, and you get a line of stam recovery. Stam recovery probably unnecessary, but say for example, you want to run more divines and less well-fitted, well, now you can because you have an extra line of stam recovery, so it's even less of a problem. And this stam recovery is more consistent than what you're getting from Eternal Vigor, because you get this even when you're low health, below 50%. So it's not bad. I like Bloodspawn a lot still, even though it's been nerfed a couple times in a couple different ways. I don't know, it's a toss-up between this and running 2 lines of armor that are up all the time. I'm going to say this one is up to preference. Whether you use Balorg and have a little bit more offense, use Bloodspawn, or 2 lines of armor and have a little bit more defense in no CP, I think that is pretty valuable. But otherwise, I don't change anything. This is a build that you can run in CP and no CP, which a lot of people are going to like, because if you want to play CP Cyrodiil with your guild and then play Battlegrounds every now and then, you can actually do both in this setup. So now I'm going to talk about kind of how I got to this point, because goodness gracious, I'm running a proc. I'm running the Venomous bow, and like Venomous Smite is a lot of damage. And I think the first question that I expect to get is, wow, Grim, usually you run 3 or 4 damage sets. Like, I would not be surprised if you were running Stuns and Clever Alk and Master Bow or Vateshran and Balorg, right? Like 4 damage sets. There you go. Like, isn't that what you normally do? And the answer is yes. But the problem is, this patch is crazy tankiness because we have so many heals in the game that scale off of your max health and so many sources of damage via procs that don't scale off of anything, that you can build crazy high health, kind of ignore weapon damage, and still get all of the healing and damage that you need. So you can be insanely tanky and do more than enough damage. And with the addition of the Vateshran Maul into the game, you not only have pretty good damage via procs, but you also have pretty good burst, because the Vateshran Maul is a lot of burst. And it's really easy to have up and keep up and use. You don't even have to think about it. It's not something you have to incorporate into your gameplay. If you're used to medium weaving, you'll be able to medium weave this in no problem, and it only takes just a tiny bit of fine-tuning your playstyle in order to make this a devastating tool. And so it's vicious. So you have people that are running around 35k plus health, all heavy armor, a lot of times resistance capped, sometimes in Alessian, and still doing obscene damage. And if you're running a full like max stat weapon damage pen like max stat build on Nightblade, you're not going to kill anybody. And there are a couple reasons why. The main one is that your combo takes several global cooldowns, right? Like the typical combo is going to be Incapacitating Strike into Relentless into Executioner. That's if everything's going really well for you and you can land all three of those, that's ideal, right? That's kind of your big burst combo. Incap, Relentless, Execute. But that's 3 separate global cooldowns that take 3 separate seconds. And with how tanky people are, all you have to do is break free from one of those and either dodge or block. And most people will just block. Like, you know, they'll block, then they'll hit their heal button and they'll recover 15k health and you're back to square one. And that is just, it is painful to fight. It is so frustrating and slow and boring. And if you are fighting outnumbered and there's a healer, or you've got several guys with 30k plus health and you're trying to burst one of them and you've got cross healing going on, dude, it's a nightmare. It's horrible. So what Venomous Smite essentially does for me is it gives me a way to pressure people while I'm kiting, while I'm on defense. And that sounds kind of silly, but it's a big deal because, like I said, the main counter is people playing defensively. You roll dodge or block and my whole combo is shot and I can't kill you. So how do you remedy this? Well, part of it is to damage people while they're on offense. And a really effective way to do this is to hit anyone in the group that's chasing you with your bow from stealth, which guarantees a crit, and you're going to proc Venomous Smite. And that lasts for 10 seconds. It deals 2.5k every second to everyone in that group who's standing close to each other. And what that means is that you can run, and then when you turn around to burst someone, they're not at 100% health like you would expect since you've just been running. They're at 70% health. And that changes so much. And with that in tandem with Balorg, if you're using it, and the Vateshran Maul, means that you can get another like 12k burst, off balance stun into Relentless, which is, again, going to be on your front bar, then into Execute. And you don't even have to use an ult, and you can kill people in a way that you couldn't kill with 4 damage sets and a full burst with Balorg. It's insanity. Like, it's just such a better way of playing because this damage is happening outside of your ability's global cooldown. So even if you are doing a full damage combo where you're hitting an incap into a Relentless into an Execute, it's all the better because every single global cooldown you've got Venomous Smite ticking on them. And that adds up. It's like a full separate ability by the end. You know, it can very easily do 10k damage in a burst rotation that you're pulling on someone. So it's like getting an additional surprise attack into your combo. It's a lot. It's a lot. And you really feel it. And then what's nice is I'm able to supplement my damage using the Warrior. Normally, I would be running the Serpent, but this patch, it just hasn't felt necessary. And because Eternal Vigor is so efficient and it supplements the healing loss that I'm taking by running Venomous, because I'm not running a lot of damage, right? I'm not running all the damage that I used to run. If you're running New Moon and Briar, you have a lot of weapon damage for healing. Even on your back bar, I was getting 20k Vigor heals, and that's a big deal. You might hear my cat playing in the background. We have a laser pointer that's going automatically, so he's like jumping up on walls and stuff. Kind of funny. If you watch my streams, you might know him. He's Gustavon. Off topic. Anyways, I'm taking a healing loss by running a proc. And Eternal Vigor helps me to make up for that healing loss. Because when I'm low health, even if I have no stats whatsoever, I've got like very little damage, I might not even have any stamina to cast an ability, I'm still going to be healing quite a bit just based off of this health recovery. It does a lot for me. And since I'm running Artaeum Takeaway Broth, I already have 1,100 health recovery. So it shoots up to 2,000. And it's a lot. You know, it shoots up well over 2,000. So having Eternal Vigor ticking on you when you're under 50% health, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it supplements that healing loss that you take by running a proc. Not only that, but it supplements all of your recovery. So it means that I can run the warrior with a bunch of Divine's pieces, and I'm totally fine. This also plays very nicely off of the fact that they gave us a bunch of base crit resistance, which means I really don't have to run any impenetrable at all. You can see when I'm running my Balorg setup, I'm still getting 34% critical resistance, which is, if you watch my defensive mechanics video, it's an additive, or I guess rather subtractive value. So, and it rounds down. So it's only 34%. It's not 34.8. If I was playing in CP more often, or honestly, I'm going to do this anyways, I have to adjust my CP values to get this to 35, because this 0.8 is completely lost. But so I'll be doing that later. And I'm going to have all of my CP in a spreadsheet in the description. So that might not be out right away, but check back next week and I'll have all of that updated, because I'm going to be testing CP just a little bit more, fine-tuning it, and you can always get my latest, most up-to-date CP in video descriptions. It's the same spreadsheet for all of them, I just update it patch to patch. So you'll see all the different tabs for different patches, and that'll kind of help you figure out what I'm doing with my CP. So that is basically why I'm running this. Eternal Vigor is carrying my healing and my sustain. Venomous Smite is carrying supplemental damage, and it's doing damage while I'm kiting, it's doing damage while I'm on defense, it's doing AoE damage, and it's one of the strongest procs in the game. One of the reasons that you don't see many Zerglings and super thick heavy armor people using Venomous Smite, the reason that they're using other procs, is because this proc requires a crit. You have to deal critical damage, so you can't use it with Malakath, which is fine because it's already one of the strongest procs in the game. I think it's the strongest damage over time proc in the game, but it requires a critical. So that's no problem for a Nightblade. We have all the crit we need, both passively and, out of cloak. It's just fine. One other way you can run this if you want, and I had a lot of fun doing this, is I completely decided to forego a monster set, and I just ran Venomous on the shoulder and head like this. So I had 5 here, and then that freed up the option of running either a master bow back here or a perfected Vateshran bow, which was also a lot of fun. Played around with snipe. In BGs it was hilarious. And what's really nice about this setup too is that you also get the Venomous Smite proc on your front bar, and that is really handy sometimes. I did like this setup a lot. No complaints having Venomous on both bars. It's great. It means I don't have to switch back to bow if I don't want to, but ultimately, even though it's a little bit harder to play around, using a monster set is a better option. It's overall stronger. It gives you more options. It gives you, more options, more ways to play, more ways to do the damage, more overall pressure. I I was dueling a bunch of my friends, playing around, like switching between the different builds, and it was unanimous that by far Balorg was the most overwhelming to fight. It was just a lot of pressure, and they felt the difference right away. Like, I wouldn't even tell them when I was changing sets, and they're like, oh, wow. You know, this is a lot more pressure. I can really feel the difference that Balorg makes. And, you know, and that's partially because 12 seconds is a long time. When I in-cap, even if I miss, I'm getting that buff to my damage and pen. And so Venomous Smite is doing a lot of work on them while I'm just chipping away, just applying pressure. And what's nice is once this is landed, you know, they can't just dodge it. So a lot of times, you know, you have someone within like 2k execute range, like they've got 2k health left, and you just can't get them because they're rolling. Venomous Smite kind of breaks through that barrier, and it's really nice. It's so good. It's kind of disgustingly good. And so I like running a back bar poison, because one thing that's really fun about running Venomous on your bow is how much back bar pressure you have. Say, for example, someone's running away from you, or they're on their horse, or anything like that. Hitting someone with a poison injection from range and just spamming it does so much damage. And you actually can't see, I have the little numbers that pop up. They don't pop up for any dot. So you can see Venom Arrow's ticking and Venomous Smite was ticking. You can't even see the dot numbers for those. So all of the damage that you're seeing here is just light attack and the base tick of Venom Arrow. And when you're hitting people with that, and then you also have a poison proccing, so like right now I just have this stupid crown poison. You could put any poison on here. I really like snare poisons because it stops people who are on their horse and it surprises people who are fighting you. They'll just freeze for a second. There's no animation. They don't really know why they got stunned, and they're just frozen, and they actually have to roll it because they're snared. They're not stunned, so they don't get CC immunity. It's really nasty. Snare poisons are super fun. I recommend you try them. But the amount of pressure that you can put out with double dots, snare poisons, whatever, and then just Venom Arrow spam with Venomous Smite on your back bar it's sickening, honestly. It's so fun. And so killing people off of their horse has never been easier, and that's something I really missed from the good old days when I ran Poisonous Serpent and Spriggans, and then I ran Troll King to supplement my healing. It's basically the same idea. I'm running a proc bow, I'm running a proc Maul, and then to supplement my healing, I've got Eternal Vigor. And then to supplement my damage, I've got Balorg. And then instead of the Serpent, I am using the Warrior. So it's just kind of come full circle in that way. And this has been easily the most effective way that I have found to deal with really tanky targets. You'll see, like in some of the video footage I have, there are people that have 45k health, 50k health. And, you know, I'm not saying they're the best players in the world, but that's a lot of health to work through. And it's impressive how much this chews through it. What's also fun is that this is the first build I've released in a really, really long time that is completely accessible to newer players and console transfers, because you don't need max CP to run this. My last several builds have all been max stat builds, and honestly, they're not really good in no CP. Like running New Moon and Briar and Balorg in no CP, the damage is there, but like the supplementary skills, the sustain is not there, and you feel it. You don't feel tanky, and you certainly don't feel like you can 1vx with that kind of sustain. This set you can 1vx in no CP, and that's a crazy feeling. I haven't 1vx'd in no CP in a long time, but Eternal Vigor with Vateshran and the bow, and it's disgusting. You can absolutely 1vx in no CP, and it's a lot of fun to do so. Especially because in no CP, people die. Like, even if you're the full cancer, you're 35k plus health with Crimson and all the procs in the world, you still die eventually to enough sustained pressure, because you can't have it all in no CP. And normally, for that reason, I actually like CP better, because you have people playing at the peak of what their class could push. But nowadays, people aren't really doing that. They're just building tanky and being immortal, but not killing anybody. And really, they're they're like shark divers. You know, they go into CP in a shark cage, and that's what their build is. And they just watch other sharks fight and have fun, and they just watch. And that's all they do. And there's so many people like that. It's really annoying. And in no CP, you can kill those people. And also because people are so tanky, there are fewer gankers. One of my least favorite things about CP typically is how many gankers there are. And there's so many less because it's like pointless to try and gank people with 40k health and max resists. Like, it's just stupid. It's not fun. So fewer gankers, and that's just fine with me. That means I can 1vx without getting desync sniped while I'm 1vxing in no CP. So a lot of different things have kind of led to no CP being way more fun than it used to be. And now I have a build that new players, console transfers, anyone who's not CP capped, or anyone who's below like 500-600 CP will absolutely enjoy being able to 1vx in no CP. And Venomous Smite is really cheap because it's not one of the high demand proc sets, and that is because it requires a crit, and people aren't building into crit. People are building into Malakath heavy armor procs, and I'm in medium, right? 2 heavy, 5 medium. A lot of people who are new to my channel might not realize why I run 2 heavy, and let's get into that as part of abilities and passives. The reason that you run 2 heavy is because of the shadow barrier passive in the shadow tree. And what this does is casting a shadow ability gives you major resolve for 6 seconds, and it's increased by 25% for each piece of heavy armor. So with 2 pieces of heavy armor, you're getting 9 seconds instead of 6 seconds. And that's actually a really big deal. Compare that to the 2% max magicka and max stamina that you're losing. I think max health too. I don't know. It doesn't even matter because 2%. No, you're not actually losing the health. And that is because the heavy armor passive. I don't know. Like, I knew this. I don't know what I'm saying. But is it Constitution? No. Okay. Juggernaut. You increase your max health by 2% for each piece of heavy armor. So instead of running 5-1-1, if you run 5-2, you get the same health. You're only missing 2% max stamina and 2% max magicka. And in exchange, you're getting 2 more seconds of major resolve. And that is well worth it. Major resolve is superior. So run that. Now, let's just run through abilities really quickly. And I'll just start with the back bar. Shadowy Disguise, I'm in medium armor. I am 1vxing. Shadowy Disguise is unquestionably better. If you are 1v1ing or looking to duel or something, usually Shadowy Disguise is kind of bad manners. But I don't care. Do it. Do whatever you want there. But Dark Cloak is actually generally better in a 1v1 scenario because it's pure mitigation, and it's a lot of healing. It's a really big heal over time. So Shadowy Disguise if you're an open world 1vxing, Dark Cloak if you're 1v1ing. Generally the rule, but who cares? You can do whatever you want. Leeching Strikes, as far as the sustain goes, you don't need it because Eternal Vigor is so good. But Leeching Strikes brings a lot to the table. First of all, it allows you to essentially recover stamina while you are blocking or running or sneaking or whatever. And that is actually pretty important because if you're 1vxing, you might be sprinting away from people a lot. And Leeching Strikes, you feel it. When that Leeching Strikes expires, you feel it. You just see your stamina shoot back up after you've been sprinting, and it feels good. Not only that, but it is also the only thing on my back bar that's increasing my max magicka. If you look in the siphoning tree, you get extra max magicka while a siphoning ability is slotted. This is the only siphoning ability that really makes sense. You could slot Soul Siphon or Soul Tether. I don't really like Soul Tether that much now that there's a cast time on it. It doesn't feel like a very good defensive ult, so I don't do that. So Leeching Strikes is the way to go, and it means more cloaks. So it brings a lot to the table. It also is a pretty impressive heal, and since my healing isn't that amazing, Leeching Strikes, you can actually feel the heal. Like 750 health every time you light attack, and then PvP is pretty good. And then the stamina sustain, again, not bad. Shadow Image, I love Shadow Image, and I run this instead of a snare break, so I don't run shuffle, as you may have noticed. I do think Shadow Image is superior, but you could run Shuffle here if you're playing in a group. It doesn't make any sense to run Shadow Image and Shadowy Disguise if you're playing in a group, because if you go invisible but you're in a group of guys, you're going to get AoE'd out of your invisibility, so it's stupid. Run Dark Cloak. And if you're playing in a group, why would you want to like kite away from your group using Shadow Image? If you're the only one using it, you're going to poof away from all your friends and then be alone, leaving them by themselves and like lowering your group's firepower and whatever. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So you could totally run Shuffle here if you're playing in a group, or you could run Shuffle instead of Venom Arrow. This is a flex spot, technically. There are a lot of different things that work. Now that I'm not using the Master Bow, I could run anything here, right? But Venom Arrow is a really strong ability. You have 3 main different options, I think. You know, you have all the options in the world, but here are the 3 that I'd suggest. You could put, well, you could put most of these on. You could put Bombard if you're playing in a group. Venom Arrow is really great. It's the most utility and the least damage. I guess Bombard is not very much damage. You could put Snipe on here. You'd get a lot of damage, not very much pressure, but a lot of damage. So that can be nice. Or you can put Reaper's Mark on here. Reaper's Mark is probably the most damage that you can get, but it is the least utility in that it doesn't actually do damage, which means it doesn't have a chance of critting, which means it doesn't have a chance to proc Venomous Smite. What's really nice about Venom Arrow is that it has an initial tick and it has a dot attached to it. So if you're spamming light attack Venom Arrow, light attack Venom Arrow, light attack Venom Arrow, even with my lower crit chance on my back bar, because I'm not running Camo Hunter on my back bar, I'm still going to crit with Venom Arrow, even if I haven't cloaked, even if I'm just doing this for a couple of seconds. It's really easy to get Venomous Smite to proc, and that's not true of other abilities such as Snipe. Snipe is slow, right? It has a cast time, it has a channel, so it hits really slowly, and you're less likely to crit. I mean, you can cloak and guarantee the crit, but I'm talking about times that you don't cloak. And then by that same logic, Reaper's Mark has no chance to crit, so even though it does more damage, you're not reliably getting the Venomous Smite procs, and that can mess you up. For 1vx, Venom Arrow is still my choice. I've tried every ability that I've spoken of, and I've enjoyed them all in one way or another, but Venom Arrow is the most comfortable for me. It's the fastest paced. Snipe is fun, but it's too slow paced. I don't like channeling abilities. I find myself getting trapped channeling abilities, and it's just, it's way too slow. Being able to roll, dodge, cancel, and play around with Venom Arrow is a lot of fun, and interrupting people is the joy of my life. When someone channels a snipe at me and I hit them with a Venom Arrow and it staggers them, it's just, I love it. I cannot get enough of that. Vigor on my back bar, obviously a necessity. You need this. This is your core healing. Use it like a shield. Use it all the time. Use it before you take damage when you're about to. Use it after you take damage. Use it while you're taking damage. You want to have this up as often as you can. Anytime you are in combat or around combat or think you might take damage, Vigor. Vigor. Use it like a shield. It's preventative, right? It's heal over time. Spamming it doesn't do anything because it heals you the same every second. So don't spam it. Do something else. Cast it once, do something else, come back, cast it again. Keep it up all the time, but spamming it doesn't do anything. Very important. A lot of people miss that, especially new players. And there's nothing wrong with being new, but this is just something that you have to learn. Use it a lot, but don't spam it. There's a difference. Backbar ulti, 2 really fun options that I like. I really like bow ult, especially when I'm in CP using Balorg. Again, I'm hitting someone with Venomous Smite, they have the dot on them. I'm hitting someone with poisons, they have poison dots on them. I'm hitting them with Venom Arrow, they have the Venom Arrow dot on them. And then I hit them with a Ballista, and it does like 12k damage every second, because this again is totally unbuffed, so it's 62k damage over 5 seconds. So you're getting like 13k damage per second on top of all your other dots. It's dodgeable, but it is nasty. And if you open this up on someone, you're getting the 175 ult Balorg, and then you can go in and surprise attack stun them. It's just horrible. It's horrible. Very, very few people survive a big ballista when all your dots are going on them, and then you go into pressure them, it's really hard to survive. So I really like this. Other great options, I also really like Psijic. I like Temporal Guard. It's been kind of working again, so you can use it reliably. Going back in time is great. Another kind of fun thing about this is you can cloak while you're in it. A lot of people don't know this, but like you hit it and then as you come out, you're already cloaked. And that is huge. Like, that's so huge. It's the perfect escape. You're running, you hit Temporal Guard, you spam cloak while you're in it, and you come out already cloaked, and people can't target you. And it's a get out of jail free card. Plus, you get 5% mitigation, which isn't anything huge, but it's not nothing. And you get a little shield when you block. So that's fun. It gets cut in half in PvP, so it's like 2.5k, but that's not nothing. And it just adds to your health while you're blocking, and that's totally fine. Great, good. So this is a great ult. Bow ult is a great ult. I say if you're playing with a group, bow ult is better. If you're playing alone, arguably Temporal Guard is better, but both are so fun, and I've had a great time with both. I honestly can't decide. Whichever one I'm using at the moment is my favorite one, though I just put back on bow ulti, so maybe I'm enjoying that a little more just because I haven't used it in a while. And with Balorg, it's so fun. It's so fun. It does so much damage, so much pressure. Okay, I said we'd go through abilities quickly. This is not quick at all, but here we go. This is technically a flex spot. You do not have to run Camo Hunter, and that is because with Eternal Vigor, our Magicka recovery is so good that you do not have to run Tripods at all. In fact, Tripods are the more expensive option. You could be running Essence of Weapon Crit, and this will give you Major Savagery, health, and stamina. So it's like a Tripod, but instead of getting Magicka, you're getting Major Savagery. Now, with the Magicka, you also get like 40% more Magicka recovery from Major Intellect. That is a big deal, but I've run with less Magicka recovery in the past, and I will be able to continue to run with basically no Magicka recovery, and that's totally fine. I would say in non-CP, Tripods are still, they're really useful. In CP, I don't think they're as necessary, and I think you can run Essence of Weapon Crit pots, which are also handy because it's going to up the crit on your back bar, which will help both your healing and your Venomous Smite proc consistency. Again, if you're using Venom Arrow, it's not a big deal, but like, it's something. But getting bigger Vigor heals is nice, and getting more Venom procs is nice. Having better uptime on that is not bad, and it means that if you want, you can put in any number of abilities. Ones that come to mind right off the bat are Ambush, if you really want like a gap closer. They nerfed Minor Vuln, so Ambush is even less appealing than it was in the past, and I never used it then, so I don't expect to be using it, but some people just love Ambush, and if you are one of those people that just really wants to run Ambush, this is the way that you can do it, by running crit pots and then taking off Camo Hunter. Another thing that comes to mind is actually Phantasmal Escape, especially if you're playing in a group, but even if you're not. Phantasmal Escape is really strong. It gives you major evasion, and it gives you a snare break. And since you have a lot of Magicka to spare, this might work pretty well. It really depends on how much you cloak, though. If you're a huge cloak spammer, Phantasmal Escape may not be great, and you might want to run Shuffle, but you could run Shuffle as well. They're basically the same thing. So you could totally put Shuffle on here, and that would work just fine. The rest of these are, in my opinion, non-negotiable. Relentless is kind of your cornerstone burst skill. Not only does it do a huge amount of burst, but it's also going to be increasing your crit damage, so that's nice. So you can see here I'm getting an 18k Relentless tooltip, which is not bad for running Eternal Vigor and Venomous Smite. It's actually pretty impressive how high that goes. I still look at that and go, wait, aren't I wearing 2 proc sets? I am not running any damage, so how is this possible? But all Divines with the Warrior does do something. Rally's your burst heal, another non-negotiable if you're in medium armor on a Stamblade. You'll see a lot of heavy armor people running forward momentum, and that's great, like to have a snare break, especially if you can't cloak and you can't use shade. But I can cloak and shade. I'm gonna use the burst heal 100%. You should too. Surprise attack is really strong. What's great about surprise attack is that it is a shadow ability, which means while you're on offense, you're getting that shadow barrier buff. So when you're on defense, you want to be regularly casting shadowy disguise or shadow image to keep shadow barrier up. And then when you're on offense, you're going to be casting surprise attack, and that's going to give you 9 seconds between every cast of more armor, and you want to have that up all the time. So having this on your bar really helps that. Otherwise, you're going to have to keep back barring. Like if you're using Dizzy, not only do you have to channel an ability in medium armor and make yourself pretty vulnerable, but you're also going to have to swap to your back bar to maintain your basic armor buff. Executioner, crazy strong execute, lots of fun, deals tons of damage. It's fun to cancel. You can cancel it in a lot of different ways. Bar swap canceling is the most consistent. Block canceling is the hardest but fastest. It's kind of a high risk, high reward. Even I regularly do not get like the block bash cancel because you have to be crazy fast about it. But when you do get it, it feels very spicy. But I usually bar swap cancel this. And if you don't know what I'm saying when I'm saying like canceling, you should definitely go watch either my combos video or my animation canceling video, and that'll kind of explain it. I know a lot of people are new and they're not familiar with the idea of canceling your animations. You'll see me do it in the clips. I suggest, go watch those videos, learn what it is, learn what the skill is, and then watch some gameplay in slow motion, and you can see how the animation canceling happens and what it looks like. Okay, and then finally, Incapacitating Strike. This is a great ultimate. It does decent damage. It's another form of stun, and it gives you Reave, which is just another source of sustain. That's kind of nice. But the biggest thing about Incap, what makes it really good, is that juicy 20% more damage from your attacks for 6 seconds, which means if you land the Incap and you then launch the Relentless and it hits within 6 seconds, it's going to be doing nutty damage. And that's how you get kills, right? Incap into execute, incap into relentless, incap into relentless, and then into execute. It's dirty damage. So that's the big reason to use incap. If you don't like incap, you can always run Dawnbreaker. Dawnbreaker's really great. It's undodgeable. It's an AoE. It's nice. It gives you a little bit of extra weapon damage because of passives here. You get another 3% weapon damage. But our weapon damage isn't that high at base, so I'm not really sure that this is the way to go, but it's not bad. It's not nothing. So, Dawnbreaker's fighting. It's an option, but Incap is more fun. If you're in a group, Dawnbreaker, right? If you're in a group, I'm going to say run Major Evasion, run Dark Cloak, and run Dawnbreaker. And then you can layer Dawnbreakers with other people. If you're playing with other people in a group, you're going to want to have an AoE ultimate that you can all smash down on a group of players together. And ideally, what you're going to do is, kill 8 guys at once. And that's pretty fun. Okay. So, let me just talk about consumables really quickly. Obviously, I'm using Artaeum Takeaway Broth. Artaeum's really expensive. If you can't afford Artaeum, because it is really expensive, my recommendation is not to use... what is it? The purple version of it. I forget what it's called, dude. Dubious. I would not recommend running Dubious. I think Artaeum is so efficient because of that health recovery. 400 health recovery is a lot. But if you are not getting that health recovery, I don't think Dubious is the way to go. I think it's probably better to run Lava Foot, put more points into health, like attribute points. Put more points into health, maybe 14 instead of 4. And then to supplement your damage, run No Well Fitted, and you're gonna get more efficient stats that way. It's kind of a bummer. I mean, you can run Dubious, but I would say running Dubious is dubious. So when it comes to food, you can kind of play around with whatever you prefer. You're going to be losing some health, but you'll have a more efficient stat pool by running Lava Foot. But Dubious is just not a great food. It just doesn't give you a lot of stats. It's not giving you as much back. So that's kind of my thought. I mean, another thought is that you could run Lava Foot instead of Dubious, and then that would allow you to drop Leeching Strikes for sure. And then instead of Leeching Strikes, you could run Reaper's Mark, and that'll make the damage back up that you're losing from your stam, because you're going to have to put more points into health, maybe even 20 points into health. You're going to be really low on stam, and you can supplement that damage with Reaper's Mark, and you'll be good to go there. That's a cheaper way to run it. I think it's a worse way to run it, but it is cheap, so it's more accessible to more people. And that's great. Nothing's wrong with that. So if I was not going to use Artam, that's probably the first thing I would try, is running Lava Foot and then putting more points into health, and then running a Reaper's Mark instead of Leeching Strikes. It's the most efficient way to solve the problem. Not 100% sure that it's the best, but it's certainly the most efficient. Wow, that actually covers it. That is the entire build. We did it. Wow, remember how I said it was going to be fast and it's still at 47 minutes? It doesn't even include intros, outros, other gameplay, intro gameplay. Goodness gracious. Wow, so this is going to be like an hour video, isn't it? Well, that's fun. Already. Well, that's it. That's all I have. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I try to answer every comment that is left, or every question that's left in the comment section. Whatever. I don't know that I'm going to be able, this is a crazy weekend for me, so hopefully if you leave a question in the next couple of days, I'll be able to get to it a couple of days from now. So it might take me a few days, but I try to answer everything. But that shouldn't discourage you from asking in the first place. I hope you guys have a wonderful 2021. Man, it feels like it's been a really long week of 2020, honestly. So that's fun. But I wish you guys a very happy new year, and I will see you in Cyrodiil.